So what if I told you that the person everybody in town despised, the one they literally couldn't stand to be around, that was the exact person Jesus chose to have dinner with? I'm talking about Zacchaeus. And his story, I think it's going to completely flip your understanding of who God chooses and why. I've been studying Luke chapter 19 this week, and honestly, every time I read about Zacchaeus, I get chills. Because here's what I'm learning. God's grace, it doesn't just reach the good people, right? The people who have it all together. It specifically seeks out the ones that everybody else has written off. So let me paint the picture for you. Zacchaeus was chief tax collector in Jericho. Now, that might not sound like much, right? It might not sound like anything, but in first century Palestine, this guy was basically public enemy number one. Tax collectors, they weren't just disliked. They were seen as traitors, sellouts who got rich by extorting their own people for the Roman Empire. And Zacchaeus wasn't just any tax collector. He was the chief tax collector, the boss, the guy getting wealthy off everybody else's suffering. People would cross the street to avoid this guy. Parents probably used him as a cautionary tale for their kids. But here's what gets me every time. When Jesus comes to Jericho, the text says Zacchaeus was trying to see who Jesus was. This despised, corrupt man was curious about the rabbi that everybody else was talking about. And you know what I love so much about this? See, Zacchaeus, he was so short that he had to climb a tree just to catch a glimpse. Kind of like that the little small king from Shrek, I think it is. Picture this grown man, probably in really expensive clothes, scrambling up a sycamore tree like a little child. The crowd below probably thought it was absolutely hilarious if they weren't too disgusted to look. But then Jesus does something that would have shocked everybody who was watching. He doesn't just notice Zacchaeus up in the tree. He actually stops and he looks up. And then he says, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." Did you catch that? Jesus didn't say, "Hey, you seem nice. Maybe you and I could go grab coffee sometime." He said, "I must stay at your house." Like it was some part of his divine mission. Like seeking out this corrupt, hated man was exactly why he came to town. And the crowd, well, they were horrified. The text says that they muttered that Jesus was going to be the guest of a sinner. But Jesus didn't care about their opinion. He cared about Zacchaeus. And here's what I think I'm learning from all of this. And it is changing how I see myself and how I see others. See, we tend to think that grace might just be for people who've cleaned up their act first, right? Clean your act up and then grace will follow. But Jesus, he shows us that grace comes to us exactly where we are, in our mess, in our corruption, and in all of our brokenness. And then watch this. Check out what happens next. The moment Zacchaeus encounters this radical acceptance from Jesus, everything changes. He doesn't wait for a sermon or a guilt trip. He immediately stands up and says, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." This is incredible. 4 times the amount. It wasn't just generous, it was way beyond what the Jewish law required at the time. Zacchaeus didn't want to just make things right. He wanted to go overboard in his restoration. I think that's what real transformation looks like. And Jesus' response, it gives me goosebumps every time. He says, quote, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost." End quote. Did you hear that? Jesus came to seek and save the lost. He wasn't waiting for Zacchaeus to find him. He was actively looking for him. And he's actively looking for every person who thinks that they're too far gone, too messed up, or too hated, too corrupt. Maybe you're watching this and you feel a little bit like Zacchaeus before he met Jesus. Maybe you feel like everybody's just written you off. Heck, maybe you've written yourself off. I know I have, more times than once. Maybe you think your mistakes disqualify you from God's love. Well, friend, here's what Zacchaeus' story tells us. There's nobody that's too far lost or too far gone for Jesus to find. There is no sin too big for his grace to cover. There's no heart too hard for his love to transform. The same Jesus who saw Zacchaeus up in that tree, he sees you exactly where you are right now. And just like with Zacchaeus, when we truly encounter Jesus' radical acceptance and love, transformation isn't something that we have to force. It just flows naturally from a grateful heart. Hey, my friend, if this story has resonated with you, I'd love if you could hit the like button and subscribe for more stories of grace every single week. I do devotionals and stories every day. I do hope to see you on tomorrow's. Do me a favor, tell me in the comments, what's one thing about Zacchaeus' story that speaks directly to you today? I'd love to hear about it. My name's Adam with Faith Labs, and here's a quick challenge for you this week. Look for Zacchaeus in your own life, someone others might have written off, someone who seems unreachable. And then ask God how you can extend the same radical acceptance Jesus showed to the tax collector up in that tree. Because when we love like Jesus loves, we become part of his mission to seek and to save the lost. Remember, there's nobody that's beyond the reach of grace, not even you.